Toprak Razgatlıoğlu enters 2026 as the sport's loudest silence. A man who conquered one empire and now steps into another, where the rules change, the tires reset in 2027, and Yamaha desperately bets on a miracle. He didn't arrive to be a mascot. He arrived to be a weapon. And the stress he admits isn't fear of MotoGP. It's the weight of expectation that MotoGP itself placed on him. The grid wants to see if the outlaw of Worlds BK can bleed on Michelin and still walk tall. The factories want to know if his braking violence translates to aero-heavy corners. The fans want a savior. Yamaha wants a future. Yet behind all this noise, a forgotten truth breathes beneath his decision. He is a free bird for 2026, unchained to corporate cages, unbound by loyalty traps, free to choose the manufacturer that respects his brutality. If he outperforms expectation, he becomes the big fish every factory wants. Ducati's future disruptor, Aprilia's psychological blade, and KTM's missing chaos engine. If he survives the Michelin minefield, 2027 becomes his battlefield. If he doesn't, MotoGP buries another prophecy. The day the paddock stared at him, Valencia was supposed to be quiet. A test, a handshake session, a warm-up for a man stepping into a faster world. MotoGP gives rookies an introduction. It gives stars an entrance. But Toprak Razgatlıoğlu didn't walk in like either. He walked in like a storm checkmating a weather forecast. The garages around him pretended to focus on their screens, on aero tufts, on tire data. But every head tilted when the blue-white Yamaha rolled out with number 7 and a rider who had spent the last 3 years turning a BMW into a torture device for Ducati. The paddock knew his background. They just didn't understand his stress. People think stress is fear. For Toprak, stress is electricity. It's the static in the air before thunder, the tension that builds before a trick lands, the pressure he weaponized in Worlds BK to hunt champions who underestimated him. But MotoGP is louder without making a sound. It tests a rider before he even starts the engine. Cameras moved like vultures. Journalists sharpened keyboards. Factory bosses leaned over pit walls, pretending to analyze telemetry that wasn't even his. And the moment he closed the visor for his first MotoGP lap on the V4 Yamaha prototype, every screen in the paddock locked onto his sector times. He felt that. He admitted it. Stress, real stress, because everyone who buried him in predictions now wanted him resurrected as a storyline. Jack Miller felt it too. He walked over, clapped him on the shoulder, cracked a joke no one heard, walked, then muttered something only 2 riders understood. You're ready for more eyes than speed. It wasn't the bike that worried Toprak. It was the world watching the bike under him. The Valentino echoes, the Mark aura, the Quartararo disappointment, the Rins confusion. A decade of Yamaha instability now rolled into one man who didn't even want the pedestal they built. Because the moment he signed for Pramac Yamaha, the grid quietly changed its expectations. Some rookies learn. Some rookies adapt. Some rookies wait. But Toprak, he arrived with violence. He arrived carrying the weight of 2 titles stolen from Ducati's pride. He arrived with braking zones that read like threats. And that's why he felt stress. Not from the bike, not from the lap time, but from knowing that MotoGP has already decided what he must become. But underneath the pressure, another truth hides like flame under smoke. He is the freest man on the 2026 grid. No long-term chains, no poisonous loyalty, no legacy debts, no manufacturer monopoly choking him. He walks into MotoGP holding the rarest card. He can leave. Factories know it. Aprilia whispers. Ducati calculates. KTM dreams. Yamaha prays. If he delivers even 30% more than expected, a few top 6 finishes, a late-season podium, a wet race miracle, the 2027 market turns into a battlefield for him. A man with Pirelli experience entering a Pirelli era? A man whose stress doesn't break him, but sharpens him. A man who brought chaos into order and made it look like craft? Factories can't ignore that. They won't ignore that. Not in an era where tire familiarity becomes gold. But first comes the Michelin year, the adaptation year, the survival year. This is where stress becomes smoke around him, not choking him, but signaling the fire he tries to contain. He knows riders have died on expectations before they die on mistakes. He knows MotoGP is not about pace, but about proving you belong in the political food chain. He knows riders are not signed for speed. They are signed for usefulness. And if he's useful beyond projections, beyond Yamaha's hope, beyond Hodgson's criticism, then his name becomes the storm that bends the 2027 rulebook. MotoGP's silence changes tone when Toprak walks near it. Every legend has its first uncomfortable chapter. This is his. The chapter where he shakes, but does not break. Who carries destiny into 2026? Toprak or the factories watching him? Comment below. The breaking point that doesn't break him. MotoGP loves exposing riders. It eats confidence for breakfast and washes it down with tire degradation data. And 2026 will give Toprak at least one weekend that crushes him. One round where the Michelin front folds without warning. One race where the V4 kicks sideways under aero load. One moment where the Yamaha refuses to turn. One fall that rattles him into silence. This is where most riders break. This is where dreams bleed out. This is where manufacturers start asking questions they never say aloud. But Toprak isn't most riders. His collapse won't look like fear. It will look like ignition. Because here's the truth. Toprak only collapses when he's about to evolve. His entire career is a pattern of breakdown, breakthrough, domination. Give him a bad lap and he studies it. Give him a bad race and he stores it. Give him a bad season and he becomes a different creature entirely. And MotoGP will be shocked when his hardest moment becomes the seed of his sharpest adaptation. Let's get surgical. Mechanics of the collapse. Michelin front tire demands slow load transfer. Toprak's style demands violent load transfer. This creates a collision point, a mental recalibration he has never needed before. Electronics override his natural instinct. Engine braking maps disagree with him. Ride height devices change the weight he feels through the liver. Most riders surrender to these limitations. Toprak wages war against them. The collapse isn't failure. It's the beginning of mechanical rebellion. Psychology of the collapse: when pressure rises, normal riders shrink. Toprak expands. Stress becomes oxygen. Expectation becomes adrenaline. Criticism becomes data. Neil Hodgson said he chose the wrong manufacturer. The paddock whispers it. Even Yamaha fears it. But a wrong manufacturer in 2026 can become the right throne in 2027 if he outgrows the garage walls. Market aftermath: once he survives the collapse phase, he becomes the hottest unsigned weapon of 2027. Aprilia sees a chaos king for the Pirelli era. Ducati sees a Mark-style disruptor entering their empire from the outside. KTM sees a rider who could match Acosta for aggression. And here's the paradox. The collapse that should break him becomes the collapse that breaks the factories instead. Because once he proves he cannot be killed by Michelin, the entire paddock realizes a nightmare. Toprak Razgatlıoğlu is built for the 2027 tire revolution, which means the collapse does not mark his end. It marks the beginning of everyone else's fear. Is collapse the death of legends? Or the birth of tyrants? Comment below. The truth is neither poetic nor gentle. Toprak Razgatlıoğlu is better suited for Yamaha's V4 future than Fabio Quartararo. Not because Toprak is more talented, not because Fabio is weaker, but because the V4, by design, philosophy, character, and mechanical demand, aligns with Toprak's instincts and opposes Fabio's. Fabio's greatness is built on stability. Toprak's greatness is built on disruption. MotoGP is moving toward brutality, harder braking, heavier aero, more torque spikes, more violent transitions, compressed riding windows. The V4 is the natural evolution of that brutality, and brutality is Toprak's language. Fabio can still win. Fabio can still rise. Fabio can still become world champion again, but not on a bike that betrays his foundation. The V4 is not betraying him on purpose. It is betraying him by nature. Yamaha will choose the rider whose philosophy aligns with their engineering direction, Toprak, and Fabio may walk away because of it. This isn't Yamaha betraying him. This is MotoGP evolving faster than sentimental engineering can keep up. Toprak may struggle early. Fabio may outperform him in pure consistency. But the long-term trajectory belongs to the rider whose psychology welcomes change instead of resisting it. The V4 civil war is not about speed. It is about identity. And identity always decides the fate of a factory. From now, where does this put them? The time will tell us. Comment below. Subscribe for more savage breakdowns.